I think the trade-off, if anything, for sure would be, what one goes through in college. I felt I learned equally, if not more, in terms of what I wanted to acquire. Exposure to a fast-growing startup, looking at how a venture builder, a VC thinks. I think having a huge amount of ambition and a good amount of naivety is what helps entrepreneurs get started. And having that dreamer within you helps you do things that are bolder, one would not conventionally take as well. Hi, I'm Theodoric Chew, the co-founder and CEO of Intellect. We are a mental health care company serving and building for Asia Pacific and eventually the world. We provide end-to-end mental health support from proactive care all the way towards coaching, clinical, and distress support. We've raised funding from the likes of Tiger Global, Combinator, Insignia. To date, we have raised over $30 million in funding, well poised to grow and scale in the next many years to come as well. I would say growing up, I always had an inkling that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. My parents aren't entrepreneurs themselves, but I've always been quite inspired by people who have built things that they believe in themselves. I studied in Raffles Institution. It's, I'll say, the leading secondary high school in Singapore, where many of our greatest Singaporeans have been to. I got in from the benefit of a great education system and haven't worked hard to get there as well. But as I went through my years studying, what I found out for myself was that I had a clear want to build, to do things and not necessarily go through the career path that most of us set out to do. But I was quite clear that I wanted to build. I want to do something that actually I care about, that I believed in, and hence why I decided against pursuing, going to university or college, and rather chose to learn by doing, learn by joining companies that have been that, and learn by building myself as well. First company I started back then was a digital media platform, right? Where we actually gathered thought leaders, experts, CEOs, doctors to contribute thought leadership pieces, expert articles to help people learn and grow. At the point itself, I was huge on personal growth, Think of your Tony Robbins, the like that actually helps you grow and develop who you are. I was huge on this back then in my later teenage years and believed that many others would benefit from consuming such pieces of information as well versus just educate your fun quiz type stuff as well. That company back then, I would say, was very, very lean. It was entirely bootstrapped. We had a whole network of anything from volunteers to part-timers to guest writers that all contributed to build that network of what we had in the end. I ran the first company for about 2+ years. But at the point in time, the biggest challenge was I really didn't know what I was doing. At the point, very candidly, I didn't even call it a startup. It was a website, a platform that I was kind of doing. One of the core things I would say I believe in, it's simply doing, right? I do believe that one does not have and would not have all of the knowledge and all the skill sets at any point of time. You can be more experienced, but sitting by doing and trying, one gets there. The challenge was the fact that I didn't really know what I was going about doing. What I took was very logical steps on, finding the right people to work with, the right content to create, the right audience that we wanted to reach, and then things followed through from there as well. After exiting my first company, then I actually spent a few years working for other very exciting firms. I spent time at startups, I spent time at venture builders. The high-level intent then was, I was quite aware that I was a very young individual, right? I was about 19, 20 or so, and I had very little skill sets. I had gotten lucky to have done something interesting. I didn't have the experience nor the skills to actually build something at a large scale yet if I really wanted to. So I decided to spend time to go and endeavor and find startups that were growing fast that I could learn from, that excited me, and that's what I did. So following the years that I had, doing my first company, I joined a Japanese travel tech startup called Voyaging that I led a component of their marketing team as well. The company got acquired by Rakuten, which is a huge Japanese conglomerate. So that was very eye-opening as well, right? What actually happened next after, that have actually moved towards a venture builder, sort of a VC venture builder firm called. That was the next chapter of my own journey as well. I wouldn't say there was particularly regret or remorse, going through that journey. I was really intentional about the choices I made and what I wanted to pursue. And the way I looked at it was there were trade-offs in both paths, right? I do strongly believe in a good education, country with a strong education system. So I think it's fantastic that folks who go that path have their own journey there as well. I think the trade-off, if anything, for sure would be, what one goes through in college, the experience and exposures that go with the college experience. At the same time, I would say for myself, I felt I learned equally, if not more, in terms of what I wanted to acquire. Exposure to a fast-growing startup, looking at how a venture builder, a VC thinks, and actually doing, right? Learning from actually practicing and doing on the job as I built my own experiences as well. After exiting the first company, it was quite clear to me that I was going to build something that could reach and help and impact more people as well. On a personal level, mental health has always been a very personal journey. So something that I went through in high school, in secondary school, was actually quite chronic ongoing anxiety. I struggled with anxiety in my teenage years, and I actually started having panic attacks when I was 16. That's when I started to see a therapist. And what I remember quite clearly was my very first therapy session was one of the most cathartic experiences I had. If people knew how helpful therapy was, everybody would be actually doing it. There was a national survey actually done pre-pandemic in Singapore. One of the key stats that stand out quite scarily to me is that there is a 4 to 7 year treatment gap of mental health support and care. That means to say if someone's actually mentally unwell and needing care, they waited 4 to 7 years before they got the care. And that's for those that actually eventually got the care, which is a scarily long and delayed period of time if you think about it from a physical health point of view. So it's a huge issue. And if we look at it from a outcomes perspective as well, Asia, many of the fast-moving cities have some of the highest suicide rates as well. So the problem is extremely clear and extremely real. From a top-down perspective, the mental health market across the world and even in Asia is in the tens of billions of dollars. We believe this market, not even from our belief, but it is growing annually in double-digit percentage rates as well. So fast forward years later into 2019, mental health was something that I was quite clear was one of the key things I wanted to tackle and solve for. And having gone through many more lived experiences, having seen peers, friends, and friends of friends gone through much more troubling and darker things themselves, a very clear thing popped up was how do we actually change this? How do we make mental health care accessible as well as everyday, no matter how big or how small your issues may be? In the earliest days of Intellect, I, in a very lean setup, we actually went about to understand mental health. What is the problem around mental health? What was the thing that needed to be solved for as well? And we came to a very simple problem statement. People in Asia need help. They want help, but they don't know where to start. So our initial hypothesis is how do we bring care to them in a way that it's almost extremely too simple. Like there's no reason why one couldn't access care. That was a simple initial hypothesis. Bringing access to everyone first, scaling access, and then secondly, getting deeper and deeper in the care that we bring as well. And hence why Intellect, what we do spans across different mediums. There is self-guided content that is anytime, anywhere, different languages. We have deeper live virtual care. We even have crisis support as well. And we've gone in that journey from scaled up care towards deep immersive face-to-face support as well. Firstly, anyone starting a company is hard. No matter how experienced or how inexperienced one is, there are so many uncertainties, so many variables that never guarantees anyone's path. For us in particular, mental health, when we started the company back in 2019, it was a very nascent topic, particularly so in Asia. Most clients, buyers, investors were not seeing this as a priority for them at a point in time. So for us, it was really stemming from a strong conviction, a belief that mental health was not an if, but a when. Mental health is as important as physical health, in many ways even more important sometimes because of how it affects all that we do as well. So for us, the challenge then was how do we build the category, how to build the market. It was a nascent space. How could we actually convince our first investors, users, customers? It was hard to convince people to actually meet you firstly, or even want to do a pilot and trial with you rather as well. So much less finding customers. For us, the early days were really speaking with a lot of individuals, anyone from HR professionals, clinicians, folks on the streets even as well, to try and very clearly understand what was the problem we're trying to solve for. The first 10 customers, a small pool of people to validate, and these were early stage startup that were happy to actually test out and let us know if it worked or not. So I would say what worked out well for us was actually starting small, knowing quite clearly the broader vision and mission was, but starting in smaller steps that we could chip away towards that larger goal eventually as well. It's been quite a journey. It's not been a relative towards the bigger scheme of things, not been a huge amount of time, but a time that a lot is happening, at least in my life. So I'll say one of the biggest learnings I've had that I find useful, and I keep reminding myself time and again, is that it helps to have a bit of naivety in terms of what one has, right? In terms of what I think is my superpower, if I could say, it's huge ambitiousness in terms of what I believe one can actually achieve. And that has actually, for better or for worse, guided me into taking the steps I have taken from, not going to pursue higher education, starting a startup and doing what we have today as well. I think having a huge amount of ambition and a good amount of naivety is what helps entrepreneurs get started. And having that dreamer within you helps you do things that are bolder, that one would not conventionally take as well. So I'll say in terms of what my advice is for people aspiring to be entrepreneurs, young or old as well, definitely possible, right? I'll encourage those who are interested to try to definitely give it a shot. I do fundamentally believe that there is no better time in our history for one to actually start a company, to have the amount of access to information and reach of audiences than ever before with the internet and with all that's happening. Definitely try, but definitely expect that outcomes may differ from people to people. I don't think that everyone is born or meant to be an entrepreneur, but I think everyone definitely can try, because if anything, one learns massively from this experience. In many cases, one can actually impact a lot more people as well. So I do believe fundamentally there's many paths towards one defines as fulfillment or even success as well. And this is the path I've taken, but there will be many more that people can actually take on to achieve what they want to do as well.